There is an opinion that Jesus Christ, after his death, went to hell. This view arises from combining several passages in the Bible that speak about the state of Jesus after death. Here are some of them: Psalm 16:10, 1 Peter 3:18-19 and 4:6. Let us now examine each of these passages and try to determine what they actually say. The first and only Old Testament passage is Psalm 16:10. For you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, nor will you let your Holy One see decay. Psalm 30.4. Some see this as a prophecy that Jesus would descend into hell and rise from it. However, because of the meaning of the word Sheol, it seems more likely that the verse refers to deliverance from death rather than from hell. Hell or Sheol was often understood simply as the state of death, to which all seemed destined. Peter and Paul interpreted Psalm 16:10 to mean that the Father would not leave Jesus in the power of death, that he would not see decay. In other words, his body would not decompose. Acts 2:27, 31, 13, 34, 35. The psalmist is not declaring that Jesus would descend into hell and rise from it, but rather that death would not hold him permanently. The most important and, in many ways, the most difficult passage is 1 Peter 3:18-19. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit, in which he also went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison. There are several interpretations of this passage. According to the Roman Catholic view, Jesus went to the Limbus Patrum, the abode of the departed saints, proclaimed to them the good news of his victory over sin, death, and hell, and then led them out of that place. The Lutheran view is that Jesus descended into hell not to proclaim the good news or offer liberation, but to declare his victory over Satan, complete his triumph, and announce Satan's condemnation. According to the traditional Anglican view, Jesus went to Hades, specifically to its part called Paradise, and declared the full truth to the righteous there. None of these explanations can be considered fully convincing. The Roman Catholic idea of giving the dead another chance to accept the gospel message contradicts other scriptures, e.g., Luke 16:19-31. In scripture, the word caruso, to proclaim, consistently refers to preaching the gospel, yet the Lutheran interpretation assumes it refers to pronouncing judgment. The Anglican view struggles to explain why the righteous in paradise are called spirits in prison. Undoubtedly, it is difficult to arrive at an understanding of 1 Peter 3:18-19 that is both consistent and in harmony with the teaching of Scripture as a whole. One possibility is to interpret this verse in light of the next one. Jesus preached to those who were disobedient long ago, when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built. In it, only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water. 1 Peter 3:20. According to this interpretation, Jesus was made alive in the same spirit in which he had preached through Noah to the people before the flood. These people rejected his message and were destroyed. This preaching was one example of Christ's prophetic ministry before the incarnation. See Millard Erickson, Christian Theology. However, it could also be argued that the reference to Noah is purely illustrative. Jesus preached in the power of the Spirit to sinners of his own time, who, like the sinners in Noah's day, rejected the message. The same Spirit that led Jesus into the wilderness for temptation, Matt 4:1, empowered him to cast out demons, Matt 12:28, raised him to life, and was the source of his preaching to those enslaved by sin while he lived on earth. Notice that there is no clear indication of a chronological sequence between his being made alive by the Spirit and his preaching to the spirits in prison. The last passage is 1 Peter 4:6, especially verse 6. For this is why the gospel was preached even to those who are dead, that though judged in the flesh the way people are, they might live in the Spirit the way God does. Some interpret this as referring to Jesus' descent into hell and his preaching there to the spirits. However, the assumption that Peter is speaking of preaching the gospel to the dead faces the same difficulty we noted with 1 Peter 3:18-19. Scripture nowhere suggests a second chance after death. Moreover, this verse does not explicitly say that it was Christ who preached. Therefore, 1 Peter 4:6 is better understood as a general reference to the preaching of the gospel to people who have since died, or to those who were spiritually dead. cf. Ephraim 2.1, 5, Colin 2.13. In summary, the passages cited as proof of Jesus' descent into hell are at best ambiguous and inconclusive. Attempts to combine them into a specific doctrine appear unconvincing. While these verses can be interpreted as allowing for the possibility of Jesus' descent into hell, there is not enough evidence to regard it as an indisputable dogma of Christianity. Given the interpretive difficulties of these texts, it is unwise to be overly dogmatic about the question of whether Jesus' spirit truly descended into hell.